Pam Conboy. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Pam, absolutely incredible. Setas Seminary. So she has it's a church, right? There's no deity, but it is a registered church. I want to make sure I describe this properly. But she helps people with ceremony, with psilocybin treatment, mushroom treatment to help with their, I know about psilocybin through, much through Joe Rogan's work, having many politicians on that have changed over, veterans that have changed over. When I say change over, change their idea of this Schedule 1 drug, why it is a Schedule 1 drug, by the way, which is just ridiculous, but how it helps people in a microdose form or in a macro form. But she created this 501c to help those. It's a free membership to this non-deity based church, and then helps people with these ailments, with these problems through mushroom use. I want to make sure I'm very clear on how I describe that there. She talks about a psychedelic bar, that there's these lawyers in this area and psychedelic legislation and law that understand how the federal law works here and how to work with it. But just wonderful how it's helping people, how it's changing people's life. Pam herself does it every 5 months, as she'll explain. But I want to work further with Pam and the organization, maybe go there, interview some people, experience it. But really great conversation with Pam. I look forward to learning more about this topic and working more with Pam. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word, discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission? How do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Oh, I appreciate you being here, Pam Conboy. Thank you so much for your time. What is your relationship to worms?
Worms?
Yes.
We don't necessarily work with worms, but my naturopathic physician partner is madly in love with worms, actually.
That's where I heard it from. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. As she's great as well. So tell me, what is a sparkle party?
Oh, this is all Leah talk. Maybe we should reschedule and you can speak to Leah. She
I
is
would love to talk to her.
definitely more the woo-woo of the two of us. So I built the businesses. I operate all of the businesses. Leah does she does ceremony and integration. So she speaks like a 7-year-old, and people either resonate with that or they don't.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza-MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza Dash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. Absolutely. And I've heard her speak. I'd love to have Ron. We're reaching out to her now. So what is the business side of what you do, Pam?
Everything. From the manufacturing to the collaborations with therapists, with physicians, every day to day aspect of building a business, two businesses, in fact. So both the the church, which is a nonprofit, and then the manufacturer of these products. I do everything, every function that you can think of in a small business. That's me. She is show
Wow.
pony. I am workhorse.
I see. And your business does what?
We are a church. The seminary is a church. It's a
It's a
501(c).
seminary.
Yep. So the reason it is because so Leah had been working with her patients with microdose psilocybin with great results. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, so I figured there's got to be a way. The research is definitely there. The FDA
Yes.
itself, it's still Schedule 1. FDA itself, however, granted it breakthrough therapy status for depression 2 years in a row in 2018 and 19. That really
Hmm.
opened the doors for additional research. A lot of the research beyond depression is in early stages, but we really understand the mechanisms to a great degree why this medicine can work in a variety of conditions, both psychiatric and cognitive, functional brain functionality. So I, spent a lot of time and money talking to the attorneys at the psychedelic bar, which that exists amazingly.
Whoa.
And I understood the risks, so I built the business. Having a church and working under Religious Freedom Restoration Act is a way that we can get this medicine to people in a safe and protected manner. And then I have the manufacturer that manufactures all the products. We do pairings, psilocybin in pairings. So the manufacturer builds everything, and I can sell the non psilocybin products as a commercial entity. So literally, two businesses from the ground up.
Wow.
And I work for a
So,
living.
so tell me more about the psychedelic bar. What is it?
It's attorneys that specialize in psychedelic medicines and provide
Ah,
insights and advice on risks and legalities and protection mechanisms for people who work with psychedelics.
psychedelic law. Very
Yep,
interesting. And is
psychedelic
it
bar,
state by state? And I'm sorry.
the Psychedelic Bar Association
Hmm.
is the bar that holds the attorneys that know all the things about the psychedelics. It is not a state by state law. So in 1993, the feds passed their Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And that was really designed to provide protection for indigenous peoples that have been using plant medicine for hundreds and thousands of years. Uh,
Mm.
so the idea was, when administrations change, you would occasionally have people with attitude that, these people can't use these things. These entheogens are dangerous or whatever the attitudes might be. So they would get harassed. But, in 93, the feds passed this saying that if you're using entheogenic plant medicines in sincere spiritual practice, so it doesn't identify what the plant is, it does not identify what the practice is. But if you're doing this in this manner, that's protected use because here in the United States, we actually really respect religious freedom.
Hmm.
So,
And so,
uh,
how do you?
mhm.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, so, I built this church. We're a federally recognized church. We don't speak to deity at all. We really focus in on mind, body, spirit, whole wellness integration. So, Leah, having a background in naturopathic medicine is really very helpful for this. But we have a lot of collaborations with other wellness providers, psychedelic trained therapists, physicians that are very aware of how this medicine can help. Particularly one neurologist here in this area. He sends us probably six or so patients a month,
Wow.
mostly dementia, some, early Alzheimer's type patients, but also Parkinson's disease and stroke and TBI, traumatic brain injury. And people do really well with the microdosing. We offer macrodose ceremonies as well, but most of his patients use microdose, and we can go into the details of the mechanisms if you like. But
Please.
yeah, it really enhances the quality of their lives. So the three big buckets of how this medicine works is one, it increases neuroplasticity. So your brain innately makes brain derived neurotropic factor. We call this BDNF. You have a ton of it as an infant, and then a big bunch of it when you're in your teen years, and then it wanes over time. You can increase the production of BDNF, which actually grows new neurons, new brain
Hmm.
cells, new connections. So it's actually increasing your brain matter. Yeah. You can increase this over the span of your life with good behavior, right? Good eating, exercise, fresh air, reduction in toxins, the whole thing. But psilocybin, or more appropriately, the metabolite that is active in our bodies is called psilocin, and that increases BDNF. So you're
Hmm.
actually growing new brain cells, new patterns, new ways of thinking, new connections, strengthening connections. So that's one. Another is it decreases inflammation. So that's in the body, but also inflammation in the brain. So neuroinflammation is directly correlated with all manner of mood disorders, as well as things like Alzheimer's disease and other neurocognitive dysfunction. So you're reducing the inflammation in the brain that's at the root cause of a lot of these disorders. The last thing is it balances neurotransmitters. So, psilocybin or psilocin is primarily a serotonergic agent. So, it
Hmm.
works on the serotonin pathways. Serotonin is our primary calming neurotransmitter. This is the pathway that drugs like Prozac work on. But rather than being a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, an SSRI, which actually just blocks the reuptake of serotonin, so it leaves it in the
Hmm.
synapse between neurons, it's acting like a dam almost. So it's artificially trying to flood the synapse and keep more of the existing serotonin there. What psilocybin or psilocin does, it's an agonist. It actually gets your body to make more serotonin in the more natural way. So
Hmm.
serotonin is a big focus neurotransmitter wise, but so is dopamine. So dopamine is our primary reward transmitter. And people with addictive behaviors in particular have a very wonky circuitry for the dopamine transmitter, and psilocybin helps reset that. That's why it's so good with addiction. It also helps people that have found themselves in depression and anxiety refind their reward pathways, right? So they refind joy in their lives. And this is so important for people with depression. And then the last key for neurotransmitters is it enhances glutamate. Glutamate is our primary excitatory neurotransmitter. So it really helps to increase cognitive function, memory, learning, creativity, and it also drives more BDNF. So, kind of comes full circle. So you're really getting to root cause for a lot of these disorders. And we know for sure these are the primary mechanisms of psilocybin or psilocin.
Pam, it seems to me that we're generally treating people with PTSD or with, like you said before, with the Alzheimer's or uh, or other diseases. Or but it seems to me that these are all symptoms that I would like to have, and I don't suffer from any of those ailments. So why
Yep.
not just take it that way as well?
Yeah, no, we don't we don't provide medical services. Anyone can be a member. Membership in the seminary is absolutely free. But if you'd like to use psilocybin with us in either micro or macro doses, you have to be a member. The reason is, and it's free. The reason the membership is required is because of that legislation I mentioned to you, Religious Freedom
Uh,
Restoration Act. So I can, as church, say I only share this medicine with members of our church who are using it in a sincere way. And then
huh.
you, member, can say, This is protected use for me. I am part of Setas Seminary, and I use this medicine in a sincere way. So it's sort of just a box checking exercise. But once you become a member, you are eligible to access microdose pairings. I can show you what it looks like.
Please.
So these are 2 month supplies. The psilocybin you take on a cycle 3 times a week. All microdosing is like that. So we use a mid range of microdose. So the range is 50 to 500 milligrams for microdosing. We use 200 with very gentle strains. So we use Golden Teacher and Hillbillies. It's a very happy, uplifting strain. We have strains, we have lots of people that have no experience. So we are not interested in using the heavy hitters. So you take that 3 times a week, and then you take your daily supplement every day. So we have 3 flavors of this microdosing pairing, depending on what you're trying to achieve with your microdose. So this one is calm. This is for the person who's high stress, a lot of anxiety, too much to do and too little time. I can't sleep because my to-do list will not let me. This is your pairing. So the daily supplement, these are all organic products, evidence-based. So you have botanicals and functional mushrooms in here that are shown to increase BDNF, to really help with, with a calm is more adaptogenic. So it's more calming adaptogenic. These components are really designed to work in synergy to help you reset your nervous system so you're not as reactive. So you can actually unwind, get to sleep, kind of chill. We have this second pairing that we have is called Focus, and that's more for the cognitive people. So most of these cognitive decline patients use Focus. Same setup, 200 milligrams on a schedule for the psilocybin component. In Focus, the daily is more nootropic. So that's the one that feeds more BDNF, really helps support your creativity, productivity, helps quell, how you say, procrastination. So it
Hmm.
really is a more mover shaker kind of formulation for those people. And then the last one is called Introspection. Again, same deal with the psilocybin aspect, but the daily you take there is really designed for trauma processing, wound healing, really more
I see.
of a deeper soul searching. So it's more of that kind of exercise. So we have those 3 flavors that are kind of functionally targeted to help really support what you're trying to achieve with the microdose.
So if somebody comes with severe PTSD, it would be the introspection plan that they would be recommended.
Potentially. It kind of depends. So if you're coming, we would also, for anything severe, would also recommend that they explore some other well evaluated modalities like EMDR with a trained therapist.
Hmm.
So EMDR is a rapid eye movement type of modality that has been shown to be extremely effective with PTSD in chunks. So most people with big trauma, chronic trauma, PTSD, you got a lot of shit going on. I mean, it isn't one
Hmm.
thing, right? So EMDR can help support processing some of that. We would say if they wanted to do microdose, that would focus initially on what are your symptoms. So, yes, trauma is the cause, but what are you suffering with right now? Are you
Hmm.
stressed out of your mind and you can't sleep? Would have you start with a calm pairing to try to quell those symptoms and then shift you over to introspection. If you are in a place where I can't focus, it's so disturbing. I can't get my work done. I forget to do my duties, whatever it happens to be. If there's cognitive symptoms that are getting in the way with your daily life, we'd suggest you start with focus to help quell those symptoms and then shift over to introspection with the support of other tools like EMDR. Because, we're a community. There's chronic severe PTSD is a very significant condition, and it usually will take more than one thing, honestly. Ibogaine is really interesting for trauma and related addictions. So that's another type of plant medicine that can be very, very helpful. There are, and macrodose may be a better way to crack through. So when you're doing an actual psychedelic event, when you're working on trauma, the way I like to kind of describe it, and oftentimes you'll need more than one journey, but when we're really stuck in trauma, it's like being in a shit river up to your eyeballs. The turds are
Mm.
in your hair and you're stuck, you can't
Mm.
move, you're frozen in this awful situation. What psilocybin helps do is take you out of the river, put you up on the bank. The shit is still there, but it no longer owns you because of the way a big dose of psilocybin is going to really supercharge that neuroplasticity. So you're going to be able to see things from a different perspective. It's still there. You understand it's still there, but it's not drilling a hole in your soul anymore. You have a different
Mm.
perspective.
Where does ayahuasca fall in this spectrum?
Ayahuasca is DMT, and that can
Ah.
be very, very helpful. Also, we don't deal with ayahuasca here. That is a very ceremonial aspect. There's a lot of ceremony. There's a lot of talent in brewing that substance. It's DMT with an MAO inhibitor, so it makes the experience last a lot longer. Traditional
Mm.
DMT, it is maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but it is a traditional psychedelic. It can have the same supportive effects. Ayahuasca is definitely a big, multiple day, very physiologically cleansing for the most for
Mm.
most people. It's just a different approach.
Does somebody have to physically be there? You're in Reno, Nevada, I believe, to be part of the seminary?
No, anyone in the United States, well, anyone at all is welcome to be a member. If you want psilocybin, we can provide it in microdose anywhere in the United States because remember, this is a federal law. So as long as you're qualified, there are very few contraindications with psilocybin. Um, Active psychosis and lithium treatment for psychiatric disorders. That doesn't go very well with mushrooms, with psilocybin containing
Oh.
mushrooms. But virtually anything else can be managed, even if you're on some psychiatric meds. We would encourage that if a person is able to, that they can start weaning from these psychiatric medications because a lot of them are serotonergic in nature. So it's going to have sort of a competing effect with psilocybin. It can be worked around for sure, but it's optimal if you're not taking those kinds of medications. But microdosing, we can deal with anyone here in adults in the United States that don't have significant health concerns. Like I said, there are very few. Some significant cardiac issues would be a contraindication because psilocybin can elevate your blood pressure, and safety is really our priority. So we want to be very careful around that. Macrodosing, we primarily do it here. My property is the church. I have 13 acres and I've built it out to be a really lovely resort. It's a full day experience. We do a lot of prep work. We do a full medical intake. It's a whole day here. And then we do integration support to follow. That's here in Reno. Everything is here in Reno. We have done on occasion a few shows on the road, so to speak. That's only if there's a sufficient number of people, just because it's expensive to put these things on. And we would
Mm.
have to have a facility and all of the things. It's possible. It's just much more complex and it's more expensive to do it
So,
outside of what I set up.
what you have there, yeah. So, Pam, let's say I was interested, and I become a member. So, the first kind of evaluation, I do have to come to Reno to be evaluated for that whole day.
Nope. Nope. We can do that, all of that virtually. So we serve people outside of the area. Yeah, they definitely do come here. I mean, if we grow to the point where we have a lot of people coming externally that would like to stay for the weekend instead of just a day, I will build out to accommodate that. So,
Mm,
I funded both of these companies myself from my retirement
wow.
money. I don't have any money anymore. So, if there is demand and I have revenue to support the build out of a beautiful yurt, and, I have the space. So that is potentially a future step. It's just doesn't exist right now. So if you were to come from someplace else, we would do all the onboarding virtually, and you would have to then come to Reno, find a hotel, then we'd pick you up at the hotel, bring you up for the experience, and bring you back to the hotel at the end of the day.
That's if you wanted to come on site. So let's assume we were going to be virtual. What is the process? We're working with somebody over video. We're filling out forms.
The process, so macrodose is only available in person. This has to be a supported
Ah,
process. Microdosing, you do a short intake membership application. If there are any red flags, meaning history of psychosis or things that would be potentially a contraindication, you will get a phone call and a medical intake, a more thorough one. And if all
hmm.
checks out, we would send you the microdose to wherever you are in the United States. Macrodose is only offered through us through a supported ceremony in person.
And let's talk about. Go ahead.
In person. So it's a supported
In
in
person.
person ceremony only.
It's fascinating. You calling it a ceremony, like you did ayahuasca.
Yep.
So
Yep. But the drug is different. So with
I see.
ayahuasca, it's usually 3 days of ceremony.
Right.
We can do this in a single day.
Hmm. And you can't call it a procedure. You can't call it a something else just because of the psychedelic bar. Like, is it the particular grammar you've got to use
That's
nomenclature?
right. Well, because we're a church. So we don't practice
Right.
medicine in church. We don't practice
Right.
therapy in church. We support people on their spiritual journey. We have
Hmm.
connections and we can refer, and we have support by people who can offer those services. But as a church, it's very important that we behave like a church because that's how we're
Hmm.
protected. So we use the term
Hmm.
sacrament for psilocybin because we're a church.
Hmm.
We use a term ceremony because we do this in a spiritual manner because we're a church. So everything needs to align that if somebody were to give me a hard time, I can defend that I am behaving as any church would. In fact, we do
Hmm.
educational programs and integration circles that are absolutely free and open to anybody. So we're doing the nonprofit community services that would be expected from a church. I
Wow.
need to keep it all buttoned up and done right, properly, language is correct, in case anyone were to give me a hard time.
Hmm. And you say it's non-deity.
So we don't speak about God or Jesus or Muhammad or Yahweh. If you believe in all of those things, this is not an issue. We talk about whole body, mind, spirit integration, whatever that might mean
Hmm.
to you. If you're
Hmm.
using mushrooms in practice, you know what I'm talking about, right? So you understand that there's something bigger than you, and how you relate to that, whether Jesus is your guide or some other prophet or, the spirit in the sky, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So we don't speak, we're not a Christian organization. We don't have a Bible. We actually speak to more naturopathic practices. And you are welcome to bring your religious beliefs with you, understanding that that's the way you communicate with the larger universe, God, the universe, or whatever.
Hmm. Do you see a day where you won't need to have this church
I doubt
as
it.
part of the story?
I
Hmm.
don't think I'd want it, honestly, as long as I'm doing this, because I can explain to you what Oregon did. So they were the first state to decriminalize psilocybin
Yeah.
and other type similar drugs, medicines. And although the intention to get access of this very powerful and beneficial and incredibly safe medicine, by the way, um, it's hundreds and hundreds of safety studies. It's a very, very
Hmm.
safe medicine. Um, that is honorable, but when the government gets involved, things get screwed up. So, because they have to have a certain setting, that it's a non-medical environment, but certain training is needed. God knows how much insurance, whatever the costs are. When I was looking to see how do you price this, because I am a nonprofit, but that doesn't mean I have endless money. I need to bring money in to keep in operation. So I looked to Oregon because Oregon was established when I was building these companies, and they were charging something like $795 for somebody to sit with you in a room on a microdose. So,
Wow.
microdose is subperceptual. You're getting the benefits of the mechanisms, but you have no psychedelic effect at all. It's insane that they would require someone to sit with a person on a microdose at $800, and you should be doing it 3 times a week to get the benefits of a microdose protocol. That's completely insane. Completely
Wow.
insane. And for macrodose ceremonies, or macrodose experiences, they don't call them
Hmm.
ceremonies, that was between $2,000 and $5,000.
Wow.
So, who the hell can afford that? I mean, some people can, but the people who really could benefit from this medicine cannot afford the time or the cash to do that kind of shit, right? That's just insane. So the way I set it up is that for the pairing that you saw, that's a 2-month supply. We request a $200 donation. You can pay $200. You can split it up and just pay $100 a month, and I have a couple of scholarships in action right now. So I have one person that funded a pilot study for veterans. So I'll be starting that in January, and that'll be a 6-month program with microdosing, with virtual somatic practices, and as well as integration and community. So I have that pilot funded, so the participants, the veterans, don't pay anything. And I'm working to try to get a scholarship fund for the neurocognitive folks. So, as I mentioned, I get a lot of patients that are dementia and early onset, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and things. And although some people can comfortably afford to donate for the pairings, there are plenty that can't. They're on Social Security, they don't have $100 a month. And I'm not financially, I mean, I'm not getting paid, right? At all. I'm just paying for people who provide services to us. So I
Hmm.
just don't have the cash to be able to float all of this at the moment. So I'm looking for donations for those people who could really benefit. I know they will because I see it all the time, and their cost is covered by a benefactor. So working on those things, but the idea is to keep the cost manageable so more people can access this medicine.
What if discipline wasn't about punishment, but about unlocking your best self? I spent 2.5 years writing Discipline for Greatness because discipline changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. This isn't theory. Inside, you'll find real, practical steps you can use immediately to focus better, build stronger habits, reduce stress, accomplish your goals, and bring more balance to your life. Whether you're trying to get healthier, improve your career, or simply feel more control, this book gives you the framework. Start today. Grab your copy of Discipline for Greatness at joeypinz.com/book. Thank you. Pam, what have you learned about yourself through this? Are you part of this as well?
I run everything, Joey. I'm deeply
I,
part of every moving part. I'm the business
I mean
person.
the microdosing.
Oh, I see. I macrodose. So I will do
The
one
macro.
or two macrodose that blows everything out for me and
Is it
makes
really?
me a new person for about 4 or 5 months. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
it's huge, huge for me. So that's the way I use this tool.
And after you do it, you feel what?
Relief, oftentimes. So I'd
Hmm.
never used psychedelics previous. And, as you might imagine, you run your own business, doing an actual commercial business and this spiritual thing and all the stuff and all the things. It can get overwhelming because I am still
Hmm.
working, right? Because I do need to feed myself and stuff. So my days are insanely long and I don't have the funds right now to buy help. So, I get real overwhelmed in, 6, 8 months of just constant bombardment. So that's really how I use this tool. And I'll go with the intention, okay, am I still supposed to be doing this? Is this gonna, if is something gonna open up for me? Because this is hard, really hard. And I usually get the answer I need or the encouragement or whatever. And it just the stress melts away. And it's like a restart that it's gonna be
Wow.
fine. Don't It's gonna be fine. Help is on the way, and it's
Hmm.
just this, I can say the words to you, but it's not like the experience that you have, which is, you come away knowing, okay, all right, I'm ready.
Hmm. What was your first introduction to this, to psilocybin and this whole environment?
Yeah, it was Leah. So she was using
Uh,
microdosing with her patients, and I said, well, shit, why can't we make a business of this? I knew there were ayahuasca churches, same kind of medicine, right? I mean, it's a classic psychedelic, and they're openly operating. It must be something to do with the church, which led me down
hmm.
the legal exploration and also the all of the research. There's just been a ton of it in the last 20 years or so. So it was her own experience. She wasn't providing the mushrooms because that's a problem with a licensed medical practitioner. It's still Schedule One drug. But she was helping people to try to identify the right strains, the right dosage, and recommending other botanicals and mushrooms. So I adopted what she was doing in her small way in her private practice because she was seeing such good result and turned it into a business.
Hmm. What is a Schedule One drug?
It is defined as a drug that has no medicinal value and a high propensity for addiction. And we've known since the 50s
Huh.
that there is medicinal value. There was actually uh, a drug initially, Indocin, I think it was called, a psilocybin derivative that was studied in the 50s for psychiatric disorders. So all the safety studies were done. There was a clear therapeutic value being established in the 50s. And then this idea of propensity for addiction is like the opposite of
Hmm.
psilocybin, the opposite. It's anti-addictive. It helps people break free of their addictions. I actually talked to a therapist yesterday. She is one of our members. She's been microdosing for some months. And I didn't know this about her. What I thought she was trying to microdose for was just stress, and focus. Um, and it turns out that this particular person had a decades long cannabis use disorder, many multiple times a day. She would smoke the weed. And she thought she wasn't even trying to get rid of it because it was such a helpful crutch in her life. After a couple months of microdosing, she said it was amazing. The desire just went away, like completely went away. I wasn't even trying, I wasn't looking for it. It's gone. So it is anti addictive. We've always known this, but what happened in 1970, the federal government, kind of as a backlash to the hippie generation, really, that people were maybe taking it a little too far, access to psychedelics, and then you don't behave, right? Then you have different insights and you're just sort of a more open and interested and connected human being. So they just shut it all down. They shut the whole thing down. So they classified it as Schedule 1. So that means, again, no medicinal value, high propensity for addiction. And whoever did it knew that wasn't the case, but they wanted to take this out of circulation. And then the following year, the UN also banned all psychedelics. So everything went quiet. All of the research was pretty much shut down. It just wasn't accessible. Then in the early 2000s, folks like Johns Hopkins, and right now at this point, virtually every notable academic institution in the United States has a psychedelic lab. But Johns
Hmm.
Hopkins was really at the forefront. And, they did some research anyway in the early 2000s showing really positive outcomes for psilocybin with depression, treatment resistant depression. So these people were just, stuck in a very bad place, and the medicines that the FDA had to offer weren't doing the job. So good outcomes. And they submit these to the FDA, same organization that classified it as Schedule 1, right? And said, hey, look, this could be an option for treatment resistant depression. So in
Hmm.
2018 and 19, as I mentioned, FDA itself granted psilocybin breakthrough therapy status. This opened the doors. More academic, more universities are evaluating it, and more companies are trying to isolate the molecule, the psilocybin molecule, out of the mushrooms. Now, we don't believe that's the best way to go because we believe the natural entity is more natural. Number one, also has other great benefits with the beta glucans and the various other components of the mushrooms. But all that aside, the FDA, the way they approve drugs, of course, is one molecule for one outcome, right? So they're trying to understand if this thing works for this particular disorder or this
Hmm.
particular outcome. So they have to do it in that way. And, so in the last 15 years, there's just been this explosion of research and data and more openness. Although there still is some stigma associated with things like psilocybin, because, maybe you grew up then too, but I distinctly remember the war on drugs. And all of us
Hmm.
who are kids then, this is your brain on drugs, and you see the egg frying in the pan and the things like that, right? So there still is quite a bit of stigma. It is still illegal in most places, and it's still Schedule 1. There is some work being done to try to reverse that or deschedule it, meaning right now the FDA has it sitting in a bucket where there is no value and this thing is dangerous, which is absolutely untrue and everyone knows it. So what they're trying to do is declassify it. So to put it into another bucket like Schedule 2 or Schedule 3, where there's medicinal access, which will help, and
Hmm.
it'll increase more research and more people who are open to exploring the benefits of this very safe natural medicine.
Now, Pam, I was told that I may have this wrong, but the Nixon administration were so upset. This is post, of course, Vietnam, the whole hippie movement, and they
Yep.
wanted to quiet that down. So they decided to look at all the drugs they were taking, and there were all these mushrooms and hallucinogenics, and so they attached to Schedule 1 just to quiet that
Yeah.
down. And within weeks, Haight Ashbury, all these places in San Francisco just stopped what they were doing, and this is the real kind of culprit. And we've never really survived since then.
Yeah, that's exactly
Is that
right.
true?
So it absolutely is right. 1970 is when the
Yeah,
Schedule 1
70.
was put into place. And in 1950, Albert Hoffman was doing research. He developed a molecule. It was really a promising thing. But then, a hippie revolution kind of went crazy. You had a more conservative government. There was a lot of concerns, and maybe some of it genuine. I'm sure there were
Right.
people who were using psychedelics along with other mind altering substances
Mm,
and thinking
mm,
they could fly and killing themselves or
mm.
whatever. It was it was an overreaction to something that kind of went off the rails, I think. So there's sort of
Different.
blame on both sides, I believe.
Yes.
But that it shut down all of the insights, and instead of kind of trying to narrow it and putting it into maybe a schedule 2 or 3 where it's controlled and it can be used in a safe way, they just shut it down. Done. No one
Mm.
can use this.
Hmm.
But
Are
minds are
there other? I'm sorry.
sorry. I was going to say, but minds are opening. The
Right.
because of
Oh,
the
certainly.
type and quality of research that is being done, it's getting a lot of attention, a lot of legitimate attention. So it's really, really quite hopeful. But to go back to answer, I'm sorry I didn't really thoroughly answer your question, because when the government gets involved in how they deliver these things, and you have all these unintended consequences of cost and control and whatnot, I think if there are institutions or churches or organizations like us where we are medically backed. I mean, we have. I'm a biologist by training myself. I come from the clinical
Hmm.
laboratory. Leah is a naturopathic trained physician, and we work with. In fact, that's how we grow. We work with clinically trained people who understand the mechanisms, that are looking to pair this medicine with people who could specifically benefit from it. And all of our stuff is organic. It's all third party tested for everything. It is clean. Leah and I worked, both of us worked at a professional nutritional supplement company. So we know how to get these things done. It's packaged into for the microdose into capsules, vegan capsules in an FDA certified facility that under good manufacturing practices. That is the top of the food chain for supplements. So
Hmm.
if you have a group of people who have the knowledge, the expertise, the willingness to do this in a very high quality and supported safe manner, I think that's better than going through all the hoops and loops of a government channel. And maybe you just get psilocybin, small molecule type of psilocybin, and not the support, and not the integration services, and not the all of the stuff, the community, the spiritual aspects of it, because it's a very spiritual medicine, regardless of what you believe as a deity, or it is something that will bring you out of yourself, that you understand that there's something bigger than yourself. This is
Hmm.
just part of how this medicine works. So I think as we go down the path of legalization, that's great, because there'll be more access, right? There'll be more research, and maybe it gets into the medical system and it can be very useful. But I think there's still a really important role for groups like us who do this in a much more holistic manner, with very, very high quality product in an affordable way, so people have access, supported access.
And we see kind of ex politicians, Rick Perry, the former governor of Texas, who has really come back and adopted psilocybin, especially for veterans. We
Yep.
have seen kind of this shift. Will we see more seminaries and more churches like the one you have to help people who really need this kind of help?
Well, the seminary option, the church option, the RFRA protection, remember, it's been around since 1993. So
Mm,
it's there. What It's a lot of work, a lot of money,
mm.
a lot of time if you do it right. And yeah, it's just effort. Anyone could probably do it, but it is sort of a big undertaking. Yes, I think politicians that are supportive definitely help on the legal aspects, and I think it will be classified differently somewhere down the road where it can at least be it, meaning psilocybin or psilocybin small molecule, used in medical practices, just the way FDA does do their classification. There was just last week, like on the 12th, I think, of November, there was a closed door meeting with Robert Kennedy Jr. and his staff on the Make America Healthy Again initiative. And regardless of what your political leanings are, it's good that they're opening the door to really understanding okay, psychedelic psilocybin, they sit in the Schedule 1, and that's kind of insane. How
Yeah.
can we safely benefit from the use of these very safe medicines?
Hmm. It's absolutely wonderful that this is happening. I want to talk more about it. More people should know about it. Um, and it's incredible work that you're doing. We talked about that in the beginning. Pam, has there been anything in the last month or so you changed your mind on?
And change my mind on? No, actually. So the stuff that won't allow you to change your mind that this is a beautiful and needed path is
Hmm.
whenever we do ceremony, the energy and disposition and everything of people that when they arrive in the morning and when they depart in the afternoon, there's a radical shift, a radical
Hmm.
shift. This medicine truly helps people, deeply, deeply helps people. We had really early on, we had a woman that, do you mind if I share a story? Because this kind of gives you
Please.
a detail, kind of a visual of the stuff we experience on the regular with macrodose ceremony. So she came to us really terrified to deal with drugs. Again, stigma of war on drugs, that it scares me. So we don't want people to have that kind of fear, even though it's a little uncomfortable if you've never had this experience. Sure, there's, of course, some trepidation, but we spent a lot of time with her to explain what the mechanisms are, try to explain what the experience might be, although that's really difficult to put into words, because each person has their own experience, and each experience, even for the same person with the same dose, it'll be different. That's just the nature of how this works. So, anyhow, this poor woman had been sexually abused since childhood by a family member into her adulthood, and all of the garbage
Hmm.
that goes along with that, from being abused, the actual abuse itself, to all of the emotional back and forth with loving this person, that's all of that sort of stuff. So as an adult, she had done, really created this mask of being the happy, the fun one. And this was her persona that everyone saw, right? She was the fun aunt. But in the background, she was putting down a fifth of tequila every night just to calm
Hmm.
herself, and, staring out the window for hours at a time with nothing really, happening. And she was having a very difficult time with the relationship with her two teenage sons who were no longer living in the house with her. She hadn't been employed for a couple years, really at the end of her rope kind of thing. Okay, I'll do this. Let's give it a try. I need to do something because nothing's working. Came to here at the church, my house, and really fearful I'm going to fall apart. No, 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 no. You're not. There's nothing that's going to come out of you that you haven't seen already. You're going to see it in a different way. We're going to be here. We'll be here. As much support as you need, you got it. If you want to be left alone, we really believe in sort of free range journeying, because how you interact with the mushrooms is how you're supposed to interact with them. So if you want somebody
Hmm.
sitting with you holding your hand the whole time, that's perfectly fine. If you want to be left alone, that's fine. If you want to wander the property and talk to the horses and the things, that's perfect. That's how it's supposed to
Hmm.
work for you. She ended up sitting in a zero gravity recliner under Arthur. So I have this big aspen in my yard that he told me when I was on a journey. His name was Arthur. And there's always somebody that
Oh.
falls in love with Arthur.
Hmm.
So she sat under Arthur almost the whole time, tears streaming down her face, but a big smile, talking to the universe or the mountains or Arthur or the horses or whatever, happens when you're on journey. And as she's coming out of this experience, she looks at the both of us and says, "Who am I now without this burden?"
Hmm.
And we're both crying, like, "Welcome
Wow.
home, baby. Welcome home." So, that's breaking out of
Mm.
chronic trauma. So she went on to continue to do some practices that help with the integration, and that could be a variety of things, breath work, or full body scanning, or just changing your diet, getting out in nature more, all of the things that will help you stay on this path. And within, honest to God, within 2 months, I mean, this is kind of breathtaking. Within 2 months, she had faced her accuser and the people who were hiding it openly. She cut way back on the booze, improved her diet. Her sons moved back in the house, and within 6 months, she was employed.
Amazing.
But this kind of response, when you're open to really seeing what the medicine has to tell you, is pretty typical. So
Hmm.
you'll always occasion, in the group. So we do small groups, 6 at a time, and maybe you'll occasionally have one person. So I would say in total between 5 and 10% of people that I like to call the white knucklers. So they're
Hmm.
interested. I want to do this experience. And then, we give them a dose between 3 and 4 grams, which is definitely a psychedelic dose. And it's tailored to them depending on their degree of trepidation, their experience with psychedelics, any medications they might be on. So we really try to kind of tailor it. We know kind of where we want people to be to have a full experience. And you'll occasionally get these people that have maybe had 4 grams. I'm not feeling anything. You can see in their eyes that they are feeling something. So
Wow.
it's the explanation is sort of what I like to tell them is that mushroom, and we tell them ahead of time also, but the mushrooms knock on the door. You have to open it. You have to let it happen. So you have to just let the experience happen. So the small percentage of people who are disappointed they didn't have a deep dive, or maybe they didn't see the visuals that they were hoping to see, or their experience was blunted because of their own resistance. Typically, by the time we have our week follow up, our integration circle for that group, um, there's a shift. So, the attitude is brighter, and oh, yeah, you know what? I did notice these things, and I haven't had a fight with my spouse since it happened, and I'm sleeping better, and I can focus more. So, they had this experience, and the mushrooms are doing what they're supposed to in their brain, but they were so reluctant to let go. You have to be able to let go and let the mushrooms show what they're going to show. If you fight it, you
Hmm.
won't have the experience. So we do have
Hmm.
that, and oftentimes those people will come back with a renewed attitude and have a much more fulfilling experience, more what they were originally looking for, because the fear has gone away.
Pam, you mentioned that you take it about every 5 months. When you're at the end of that cycle and you need to take it again, are you feeling more? Why do you need it? What's slowing down on you that tells you that you need it again?
Yeah, it's mostly stress, aggravation. Oh, the mushrooms will
Ah.
tell you, or you'll tell yourself when it's time to revisit. So it's just, I'm a bit of a workaholic, as you might imagine,
Yeah.
and that can get to you over time. Just frustrations of building a business and really long hours, and no breaks and all of that sort of stuff. It's It can get overwhelming. So what the mushroom journeys do is to sort of break out of it and see it from a different perspective, that yeah, it's hard, but it is a labor of love. And just because it's going slower or somebody's frustrated you or whatever, it's fine. It's going to be
Hmm.
fine. And
Hmm.
you're for me, because that's how I've been using the mushrooms, is to really get out of my own way when I feel overloaded, overburdened, too many roadblocks or too many personality difficulties with folks or whatever it happens to be. Um, and I start feeling myself feeling more cranky and I'm not able to sleep very well and all of that
Hmm.
sort of stuff. Okay, I gotta schedule some time and then I'm good.
Wow. That's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. And you mentioned people that shouldn't partake in it are who again?
So really few contraindications, but folks that have active psychosis or suicidality and or treated with
Uh,
lithium, so those people are typically treated with lithium, as the folks that have psychosis, um, because especially in big dose macrodose, you have a psychedelic event, and that could potentially send you into a
mm,
psychotic episode. We don't want that to happen. Safety is primary. So, mushrooms are contraindicated for folks that have active untreated psychosis and or are being treated by lithium. It's not safe. It could be used potentially, but there's enough risk there that we won't take those kind of people. But other than
hmm.
that, virtually anyone else is a good candidate.
Absolutely wonderful. Pam, I started my business back in the 90s. I was working way too hard, much of a workaholic like you are now. 14, 16-hour days. No,
Oh,
no, you're no stranger to that. And I was younger. I was in my 20s, so I was putting my health in the back seat, and
yeah,
I stopped exercising. And
yeah.
next thing I know, I'm in front of the doctor. She tells me I'm at 340 pounds. So I
Mm,
had gained all this terrible weight. I knew I was getting heavier, didn't think I was that big, but she says to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. So my daughter was just born, scared the life out of me. I'm driving home, punching the steering wheel. This is my pie hole. I did this to myself and I'm going to get myself out of it. So the next 6, 7 months, lost about 130 pounds, 140 pounds, and I kept it off. So these are like lifelong changes. I didn't want to look at it as a finishing line. And so when I tell people this, they always say, well, what's your secret? What you do? And there's no secret, Pam. Discipline, right? Motivation, routine, focus. How does discipline play a role in your life?
yeah. Outcomes, right? So if I've had the great fortune of being able to work for myself most of my career, I
Mm,
tried the corporate route for a while. That's definitely not my bag. I like to be able to move fast, make mistakes early, shift, optimize, go. I'm built that way. I just came this way. So
mm,
I am very motivated by significance. This medicine has a lot of significance. It changes
mm,
people's lives. It truly does. And I hear exactly what you're saying, because there is no magic bullet. This is a tool just like any other tool. And for
mm,
folks that have gained a lot of weight, um, whatever diet you used, whether it's carnivore or vegan or intermittent fasting, that works for you. You got to find what works for your body. Mushrooms works for a lot of people. It gives them that extra, okay, everything's going to be fine. I can let go of this now. I can let go of this trauma. I can release myself from this anxiety that's been gnawing at me. So what I've been doing recently, and I have right now a 10-person sort of case observational case series going on, Joey. because I was seeing such big difference, and I'd love to quantify that in some way, right? The big mood shifts, the big psychiatric shifts.
Hmm.
So I've been using for these 10 people, and I had been using it in the past for select people, giving them validated surveys. So that means psychiatrically validated surveys that this is actually meaningful things to measure, and we can monitor change over time. So one is called the GAD-7. That is an inventory to assess general anxiety disorder. One is called the Hamilton D. That is a depression score tool. And then one's called the Perceived Stress Survey. So these are all well-established surveys. And what I saw when I was just giving these to people who might be interested, would you like to know in some some quantified manner what the shift is over maybe 3 or 4 months if you're microdosing? What we were seeing, what I was seeing is depression improved for sure, but anxiety dropped like a stone, like a
Wow.
stone. So this got me really excited. Now I'm doing this a little bit more formally with 10 people. And we'll do it over 6 months with 3 different sets of surveys. But it's a real shift. That's really meaningful to me as more of a scientific brain. I guess I'm left brained. That it's not it's not people fooling themselves. This is not placebo. This is durable change. So yes, that motivates me through all the sleepless nights.
Wow. So given that motivation, I mean, I hear impact,
In-
Pam. That's what,
Incredible, incredible
yeah.
impact.
So how do you measure success?
Yeah, we stay in touch with all the people, especially the ones that do macro dosing, and to be able to, I see success every time we do ceremony. That people will come
Hmm.
in clearly worried, weighed down by whatever, kind of uncomfortable in their own skin. And by the time we sit down we have a family style meal at the end as people are coming out of journey and kind of tell tales and laugh and talk about the importance of integration and keeping on this path and the different support tools that you can use. The one day, seeing the change, the whole shift in energy, it's
Hmm.
hard to describe. You have to actually see it yourself.
Hmm.
That's impact, and it sticks. It
That's
sticks.
absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. So, family systems are repaired. People have finally broken
Hmm.
through their, intolerable stress and anxiety. They're sleeping at night. They found their creative muse again. They've
Hmm.
opened themselves back up to the world where maybe, I would stay in bed all weekend with the sheets over my head because I just didn't want to engage. This is one person, and within several months, she was out there and she found a boyfriend, and the the glow that comes off of this woman now is breathtaking.
Must be so rewarding, Pam. You're doing wonderful work there.
You know, I'm just the conduit, right? So it's really
Hmm.
the mushrooms. I'm honored to be able to
Hmm.
make a pathway where people can really become whole.
Well, we need more people like yourself that are pioneers that want to embrace this, that understand it, that know the studies, to know the laws, and know how it can help people. I really, really, oh my goodness, congratulate you on this. It's worthy. If anybody watching or listening and they want to get in touch with you, the Seminary.org, that's the best place.
Yep. And you can, on the front end of that website, it's pretty vague. It talks about how whole mind, body, spirit, wellness, and integration and use of plant medicine. But I don't have any language specific to psilocybin on the front end of the site. This is really deliberate. I don't want to attract people,
Mm,
number one, that are looking for recreational drugs. We don't sell drugs.
Right.
That's not our model. And I also don't want to call undue attention to myself by using words that might get me, attention that I don't want. So
Mm-mm.
you can become a member. It takes literally 90 seconds. And then you can get into the back end of the website, the member portal, which has articles and podcasts like this one, and recommended reading and information about our microdosing. So there's lots of good information on the back end. We have, and this is by design also, we really are growing more in a grassroots way. So that's why I'm really focused on therapists and physicians that understand the science, and other practitioners who are trusted sources that if you, my client, my patient, my friend, could really benefit from it, here's a place you can go look at the information. You can go understand what the mechanisms are. You can participate in some of the free educational programs that really focus on this sort of integration tools, and decide for yourself if you'd like to travel this path. So we want
Mm.
to do it, slow, cautiously, in a supported and a well-informed audience. So that's the explanation why it's kind of vague on the front end. I mean, you could read between the lines, I'm sure, but the detailed information is really in the member portal.
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypinz.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it. Well, I appreciate it. So it's Setas, Setas Seminary.org.
That's correct. So setas is mushrooms in
Ah,
Spanish.
setas. In Italian, it's fungi.
So I think they use fungi and maybe also champignon, but setas
Champignon.
is a Spanish word for mushroom. So it seemed to make
Very
sense to
interesting.
me. The school of mushrooms, Setas Seminary.
Ah, of course, you're on Facebook and Instagram too. You've got lots of great content there. I appreciate your time so much. Next time I'm in your neck of the woods there, perhaps we'll get a cup of tea.
I would love that. I'd love that. I'd be happy to show you around when the church or my house is really not open for
Yes.
tours because I live
Uh,
here. But
wow.
I can do it with a little advanced planning. And you're welcome to come join us for ceremony or observe, or we
Wow.
welcome people to explore and see what we have to offer, because we really are doing this in a sincere, thoughtful, and safe way.
Hmm. Pam, thank you so much. You be well.
I really appreciate your time, and definitely do get in touch with Leah. She's a lot of fun to talk to and very, very deeply informed on the different plants that we use in the pairing side of it for the microdosing.
Very good. Be well. Thank you so much, Pam.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.